When I was a senior in high school, I had an event happen in my life that plagued me for many years. Um, I was 17 years old, and my father had a massive heart attack and died. Here I was about to enter into manhood, about to finish my high school education. The next step was right there, but now I had no one to guide me, and I felt like I'd been cheated. As I began to learn about listening to the Lord and His desire to heal those hurts, I felt like I wanted to ask Him the question, why did you take my father right when I needed him the most? I felt Him in my spirit say, sit down, close your eyes, and go through the events of that day. I've done that many times before, so I didn't have any real problem with that. I remember I was sitting in a physics class. A lady came down from the office and said, your father's ill and your mother wants you to come home. She drove me to our house, and I remember getting out of the car, jumping up the little wall in front of our house, across the grass, up onto the porch, and I opened the front door, and when I did, I knew my father wasn't sick, because my mother was sitting on the couch with our pastor beside her, and several of the neighbors were sitting around the living room. And through tears, she said, Daddy's gone. And I remember the emotion that wanted to well up in me. But I knew I needed to be strong for my mother and for my sister, so I just shoved it back down. I went in and sat down in a chair in the living room. And that's when the question came, Lord, why? Why did you take him now? Couldn't you at least let me get the guidance I needed to get started on this next step? But you took him. And as I was seeing myself sitting there in that chair, I sensed from that chair that there was someone standing behind me. And I turned and looked, and Jesus was standing in the doorway into our dining room. And he motioned to me to follow him. All of this is going on in my mind's eye. So I'm saying, where did that come from? But I got up out of the chair, and I followed him out to the kitchen. And when I got out there, he just wrapped his arms around me and held me. And all of that emotion that I had stuffed so many years ago came boiling back up to the surface. Tears were dripping down on his robe. In reality, they were running down my face. As I began to settle down, I asked him the question, Lord, why did you take my daddy? Why was I cheated out of that? And he said, I never left you. I have been your father all this time. When you needed wisdom, you asked and I provided. When you needed help, you reached out and I took your hand. You've never been without a father. Now I could go back to the Bible and I could see the scripture, I'm father to the fatherless. I'll never leave you or forsake you. If any lack wisdom, let them ask of me. But he never gave me chapter and verse. He spoke to me. When he did, all of the questions, all of the concerns, all of the stuff that I had believed disappeared, because now I knew the truth. The lies that I had held on to for so long were gone, but the truth was there. And I've learned that listening to God's voice has made a radical change in my life.